It's giving Nellie Olson. Hello, hello. Or should I say fuck, fuck, fuck 1,000 times fuck. Nope, I shouldn't say that, because if you say that in the first 7 seconds of the video, you get demonetized. Joke's on me, my whole channel got demonetized because I forgot to fill out a form. Anyway, let's go ahead and find out what is going on in the misses. And yes, I got bangs, and I'm wearing braids because I was wearing a ponytail around, and then a friend of mine rightly intervened and told me that I looked like Aunt Gail from Bob's Burgers. Chapter 29 of The Misses. My favorite part of the beginning of this chapter is that Maxim is rereading the line about first my wife, now my mother, and then he has the thought, my wife, Carolyn? No, his other wife? What are we expecting? Actually, at this point in the book, considering how few things are actually getting wrapped up or dealt with in any sort of substantial way, why not? Let's have a second wife. And then it gets even better. And guilt surges like a tsunami through my chest. But, we, we, M dash. Kit was dead when Caro and I fucked that first time. I never touched her while they were together. Not once. Before they were together, yes. But, not while they were a couple. The thing that was written in the journal was first my wife, now my mother. Maxim, why did you immediately think that it was about Carolyn having sex with you? Did you have sex with your mother? And then his opinion of Caroline, like, if you were wondering, like, gosh, you know, they're such good friends, and it's so good that he's there for her and all of this stuff, and, you know, gosh, even at the expense of his own marriage, he's willing to stand by her in this troubled time. Was she aware that he knew? Did he confront her? He must have. His will was changed in September last year. But an affair with whom? One person? 2 people? More? Like, just in case you wondered what his opinion of Carolyn was. Was she having an affair with, you know, 3 people, 4, 5, 17, 9.5? 3 wise men and a camel? You never know. Sorry, I checked my text. There are people in my people in my life going through things. I have to check my text, darling. I'm wanted. I'm in demand. Oh shit, I dropped it on the floor. Then he thinks like, oh, poor Kit, that this affair that I have made up in my mind and I have no confirmation about, I just assume that it's an affair for some reason because it says first Carolyn, now my mother. But somehow it's an affair. Like, was your mother cheating on Kit? But all of a sudden it's that, you know, it must have been this affair that Maxim made up. He's just decided that Caroline had 15, 16, 143 men on the side. But then he has the gall to say, I think back to Christmas in the Caribbean. There was no hint of marital unbliss between them. Or maybe I didn't notice because I was too busy fucking my way through the American tourists. He has this journal in his hands. He has a journal in his hands that will detail exactly what's going on. He can just look and the mystery will be solved. He just needs to flip a few pages. But he's conflicted. Does he really want to know? Yeah, do you really want to know, or is it just easier to make shit up about people around you that you allegedly love and care about? Is it just easier to make up shit about them? Then let's do that and not waste all this time reading. Luckily, he doesn't have to debate whether or not he's going to take a look at the journal for very long because the housekeeper comes in and is like, I just wanted you to know that your wife went outside, basically. This is what... The Countess has gone out with Jenkins to the sheep. She didn't want to disturb you, but she wanted to help. We have 27 ewes lambing right now. She went out with Jenkins. She didn't want to disturb you. So hi, I'm here disturbing you. Didn't the Countess just say that she didn't want to disturb? this dude, the count, the duke, the king, whoever he is, didn't she just say that she didn't want to disturb him? So the housekeeper is like, but I must report the countess's whereabouts, for you see, she must be under constant surveil. Anyway. That's just, I mean, that's not even just like that's just something that doesn't make sense in the book. And another thing that doesn't make sense is that all of these lambs, 7 lambs are having, or 27 lambs are being born right now. 27 lambs are being born. And so he thinks, oh wow, that's a lot at once, so I better go help. Because, you know, why should we see anything that would wrap up any part of the story at 85% in? Why not introduce a new mystery and then have the person who has discovered the mystery with all of the evidence right in their hand? Why not send them out to do some farming instead? We go into Alessia's POV. And then Jenkins asks Alessia if she's pregnant. Like, he just asked, he's like, I have to know, because we can't have a pregnant woman around the sheep when they're lambing or whatever. And Alessia is like, I know that pregnant women can't be around sheep and goats. Which I love that she finally knows something. Somebody's trying to teach her something, and she can say, I know. In case you don't know why pregnant women can't be around sheep and around goats, it's because there are certain diseases that affect them that can also affect pregnant women and can cause them to get bad infections or miscarry. I don't know what the diseases are. I don't think it's an old wives' tale, though. I think that's absolutely true, but it's something that I've heard for years, is that pregnant women should not be there when baby lambs are being born. They shouldn't help, you know, goats birth kids. Speaking of the goats part, after Alessia says the thing about sheep and goats, Jenkins is like, goats? He really is. It says, goats? Alessia laughs. Yes, where I am from, we have goats. Another one of those tell me E.L. James grew up in a city moments, because they have goats in the UK as well. They have goats in the UK. Good news! There is a whole pages long explanation about how lambs are born on a farm and what the farmhands do to tend the lambs. And in case you ever find yourself in a situation where you need to birth a lamb, you would probably be able to fucking do it based on the amount of time that she has spent after introducing a huge mystery at 85% into the book. We gotta pause and we gotta learn about lambs. This whole lambing scene, this is like the whale biology in Moby Dick, okay? If anybody could feel more frustrated with an interruption in an interesting part of a book that is really cooking along, and I refuse to say that this book is as interesting as Moby Dick, however, the whale biology moment, it's in here. It's the lambing moment. What annoys me about this scene is that Alessia, we know that the Albania of this book is like a barely not prehistoric country, the way that it's been portrayed. It is just like they've just gotten agriculture, is the image that is being projected here, right? So Jenkins explains to Alessia, after she's saying, like, yeah, we had goats, Jenkins is explaining to Alessia, and the farmhands are explaining to Alessia, all this shit she already knows. Like, they're like, oh, we're giving the baby colostrum, and colostrum's good for a baby. Like, she would already know this shit. And you know what Alessia does? She disinfects her hands, puts on some gloves, and is ready to jump right in. So I'm sure we're going to hear about how she looks like this beautiful pastoral goddess or some quaint folk village heroine when Maxim arrives and sees her messing around with the sheep. And when Maxim walks into the barn and he finds out that Alessia is helping with this is what happens. I frown. Does she know what she's doing? But I keep that thought to myself. Yes, keep it to yourself, because we've already heard about how Alessia is from this poor country where everyone is basically a medieval peasant, and now you're going to doubt that she knows how to do something with livestock? You can't have it both ways, sir. You cannot have it both ways. Hey, remember my prediction? I'm suddenly overwhelmed with a swell of emotion that mushrooms in my chest and stops me in my tracks. My heart is full to bursting, just watching my sweet wife interact with a sheep. A Trevithick sheep. One of ours. Thanks for clearing that up. I've never seen Caro or my mother held like this on the estate. And in that moment, I know Alessia is the best thing that's ever happened to me. To us. All of us. Here. Now. Pardon me. I don't mean to doubt the intensity of his emotion at this moment upon realizing for the first time that his wife is not like other girls, but there have been way too many times already where he has said something along the lines of how, like, being with her has changed his life, or he can't believe she's, is in his life, or we cannot, I'm sorry, keep having the emotional moment where he realizes he loves his wife. We are 85% into the second book of this romance series. That is worn out. He can have a new appreciation for her strength, for strengths that he has not seen or even given a thought to. But he cannot keep realizing that he loves his wife. Molly from the American Girl doll catalog. I look like fucking Molly from the American Girl doll catalog. That's what this is. I look like Molly. She grins, and it's obvious she's pleased to see me, and she's in her element. She's thoroughly filthy, with blood, mucus, and heaven knows what all over her gloves, jeans, and sweater, but she's radiant. If somebody saw me covered in blood and animal shit and went, "Oh, you look like you're in your element." She looks like she's in her element. She's covered in filth. The disgusting Albanian peasant is wallowing in animal filth. She's in her element. The thing is, it wouldn't strike me like this if we haven't already had this depiction over 2 books of Albania as being like this Bronze Age run down. He is so super helpful. He has shown up to the barn. He has found that there are about 30 ewes giving birth to lambs. He sees his wife on her knees in the shit and the blood and the placenta pieces. And he's like, I raise my camera and peer at my beautiful, disheveled wife through the lens as she smiles back at me, and I press the shutter. I'm going to take more if I can. I don't have enough of you. And right now you're absolutely fucking beautiful. I'd better go. He leaves. He comes in, he throws on gloves. He decides he's gonna take too many pictures of his wife. So he leaves. Oh, but then on the next fucking page, it's 3 a.m. and they're getting back into the house. I want to take a moment with the math here. I just want to double check the math here. I'm not a sheep expert, right? I'm not a sheep expert. But I do know this. He is told that there are 27 sheep in labor. And we see some lambs being born. It doesn't say anything about twin lambs or anything like that. twins happen. That's not a thing. Twins absolutely happen with sheep. Like I said, I'm not a sheep expert, but I do know that sheep can have twins. I do know that not every sheep is going to have twins. I also know that 27 times 2 27 times 2 is 54. All right? 27 times 2 is 54. You go ahead and check my math. I know for a fact that that's right because I did it in the air. So we'll keep on. 27 times 2 is 54. So if all 27 sheep had twins, we would have 54 babies. We're exhausted and squalid from a full shift in the sheep shed, but we have 72 new lambs. 72. If every single one of those lambs had twins, then they would have 54. But we didn't hear about any of the lambs having twins. We were seeing single babies being born. But let's go ahead and assume, because not triplets, but twins are not that rare, right? So if but still, if every single one of those sheep, I'm so mad. Every single one of those sheep had twins, they would have 54 lambs, but they have 72. Where did the other 18 fucking lambs come from? Unless 36 sheep went into labor and they all had twins. That's the only way that they are getting 72. Now, there are triplets. I said triplets earlier, I meant twins. Sheep can have triplets. They can have triplets, but it is not super common. Now, I'm not good at algebra. I can't do it in the air, but what I'm assuming here is that in order to get that number, 24 lambs would have to have triplets. There were 27 in labor. So 24 of them would have to have had triplets to get 72 lambs. Only one stillborn. So we still have now, there's still, even if 72 of these sheep had triplets, 24 of those sheep had triplets, then there would still be babies unaccounted for, because there would be 3 extra sheep. One of them died. One of the babies was stillborn. So did they lose 2 sheep? Did they lose 2 sheep? Did 2 sheep go missing? How? How? I have never been so furious. I have never been so furious. Anyway, he puts her in the shower and washes her, dries her off, says to go to bed. She's tired. She falls asleep. He calls her a brave, strong girl. What is it with E.L. James and the heroes having to be like, oh, she's so brave. She's so brave. She's brave because she helped deliver some lambs. She's already delivered goats. She says she's already delivered goats back in Albania. What is particularly... Never mind. The next morning, Danny just comes up into their bedroom because she's like, it's 11 a.m. and I figured you'd want breakfast, and I would be immediately shutting that shit down just to be polite to my staff, because these people are going to be fucking and somebody's going to walk in. And then while Alessia is laying there naked in bed sleeping, the housekeeper looks at her and says, "Oh my lord, you've chose well." Excuse me? I am the Countess. You don't get to look at me laying here in bed, start talking about my value. Time jumps, so that we find out like how Alessia spends her day in Cornwall, how she and Danny meet to manage like menus and like what's going on with the vacation properties, you know, those little cottages that we saw before. And then she's, you know, working with the sheep, and she's driven a car. She's even driven herself without Maxim. He was anxious, but he let her go. Oh, that was so nice of him to let you, an adult woman, drive a car on private property. She needs to apply for a driver's license and take a test. He's not going to let you. If you can drive a car, you can leave. Then it says that during the week, the home farm has welcomed 197 lambs and counting. That means that $65? It's going to come out a decimal. But either way, 64 or 65 sheep need to have triplets in case we're, because I'm going to just imagine that this is the farm where all the sheep magically have triplets. So is it going to be, it's either going to be 64, 65 or 65, 66. It's going to be a decimal between one of those two. She likes it in Cornwall because she feels useful. She's happy because she feels useful. So, you know, good thing she was a housekeeper. They've taken a couple of walks along Trevithick Beach, and she's breathed in the fresh, salty air by the sea. He has given her the sea, ... again. It's not his to give. The sea belongs to all the things inside it. That's not his sea. That's how angry I am at this. Like the author cannot even... This is how mad I am about the sheep math. Is that the author cannot even use a cringeworthy romanticism of he's given her the sea. Like they can't even do that. Like she can't even do that without me just flying into a rage because I'm still so hung up on the sheep math. So the next day is Sunday. They're going to go to church, and then after that they're going to go back to London because she has her audition on Monday. Apparently there's going to be a meeting for all the tenant farmers, and Alessia is going to, it's the first time that they're going to have like entertained people at the hall. I really don't want to see the whole thing from Maxim's POV where he sees how subservient and good at being subservient his wife is. We probably are going to see that because the only other option, if we don't see that, would be for us to see something that advanced the plot. We get all sorts of stuff about regenerative farming. Like suddenly this is a big interest of Maxim's, and it has to be explained to us that it's sustainable and it's organic and all of that stuff. I did not come here for the farming. Granted, I didn't come here for much. I had low expectations when we went into this. But I just don't care about the regenerative farming, and I don't know why it's coming up when we just had this like big hook about like, ooh, Carolyn did something and Rowena did something and ooh, Kit's diary. But now it's lambs and showers and regenerative farming. He has not read at the end of this week. By the end of this week, he has not read any more of Kit's journal. He's put it back into the safe because he doesn't know if he wants to find out more. Because again, it's easier just to make shit up and blame other people. But it gnaws at me. Carolyn, faithless. Is it any wonder we fucked when he died? I thought it was some grieving alchemy that got us together. It probably was, but as I look back, there was no restraint from either of us. Hell, was she faithless throughout their marriage? She said she loved him. She was devastated when he died. Devastated enough to sleep with me? Fuck. And he thinks, you know, neither of us behaved well, but I like that on his side of things, he slept with her because he was grieving, but on her side of things, she slept with him because she was an adulterous whore. But before we can go too much into any more of this stuff about Kit and this secret that apparently he's been hiding since the first book, a police officer shows up! Officer Nancaro. Nancaro? Nancaro? I don't know how to pronounce that name. We don't have that name where I'm from. That sounded like if my husband was here, he'd be like, Jen, that sounded really racist. Because he's always saying that I'm being racist about places that, like, aren't a race. Like, how I pronounce people from Italy or things from Italy. I say Italian. And he says that sounds racist. And I counter that a lot of people say Italy as a country in general has a lot of racist tendencies. So maybe it's not so bad that I say Italian. But boy, he would get me for saying Nancaro is not a thing we have in my country. Ah! This is why the sergeant is there. The two men that they caught when they were at, the ones that tried to kidnap Alessia, were murdered while they were out on bail. That's what remand means, right? When they're on remand. Because that's all I can think of. If they were murdered while on remand, if they were murdered, that wasn't like in the jail, right? It's not like when you remand someone to whatever, they're waiting for trial, right? I don't know. I have not watched as much British crime drama as perhaps I should. I do love the Harlan Coben Netflix miniseries. I am such trash for those when they come out. But I'm assuming that that's what they mean, that on remand would be on bail. But then at the same time, I don't know why you would let people who committed breaking and entering with a firearm and trying to kidnap someone, like attempted kidnapping. I'm not sure why they would get out on bail. I don't know. Maybe courts are different there. Somebody cue me up in the comments, say, hey, Jenny, actually, on remand means they were in the jail. Because you guys told me last week when I asked why she was learning how to drive on a stick, you guys were very helpful in informing me that the UK, that island part of it, is just a godforsaken place where nobody has an automatic transmission. So I learned something new. So maybe I'll learn that on remand doesn't mean what I think it means. I sit back, utterly stunned, and a memory of the arsehole showing me the newspaper clipping looms large and ugly in my head. I mean, we're all thinking it, right? Anatoly probably murdered those people because they tried to hurt Alessia. Like, Anatoly's probably there to take care of some Albanian criminal business because they are all in the mafia, right? We learned that in the first book, that everyone in Albania is a mafia-connected criminal. So, again, I'm not saying that, Joe, if you're watching this and you come at me with some nonsense about how I say Italian, that's not what I'm saying. That's what the books put about, right? Even Maxim, I mean, Maxim is thinking, you know, like, yeah, Anatoly did it, but I'm thinking it too, because it doesn't make sense that he just randomly showed up in England with a picture and is like, hey, are these the two guys? And he's like, yes, those are the two guys, and suddenly the guys are dead. Like, it just makes sense. Like, if Anatoly would kidnap someone, Anatoly would probably kill someone. But, good news, Maxim gets his DJing equipment back, but what was also found that the guys stole was Alessia's passport. Remember, if they found her passport, she would get deported? Lots of drama is going to happen, right? We're going to have this deportation drama, and it's going to be a whole nother book, and it's going to be called The Albanian. No, I'm just kidding. The cop is like, Lady Trevithick might want this back, and you didn't hear it from me. I don't know about I never found it, which, you know, good on him that he's not like, you know, let's get this foreigner out of the country, which I would expect from a cop. But no, he's just like, oh, I heard she's made quite an impression, and, you know, hey, you know, here's her passport, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, let's not talk about it again. So he doesn't tell, Maxim does not tell Alessia that these men are dead. Knowing that she still has like night terrors and shit about it, he doesn't tell her that the guys that victimized her are dead. That the traffickers are dead and that she is fully safe. He doesn't tell her that information because he knows that it's going to be unsettling for her. So he just lets her think that the men who victimized her are still alive and potentially still out there and potentially still in danger. You know, like you would do. And then instead he tells her that the cop came by to bring her passport because that's not going to upset her. Her hearing that her immigration status might be imperiled, that's not going to bother her at all. It's better not tell her that her long nightmare of being afraid of these traffickers is over because they're dead now, but by the way, they found your passport that we didn't want them to find. He tells her this, she's like, oh no, he knows. And Maxim says, he does, but he's chosen to give us both the benefit of the doubt. He's not going to pursue it. Alessia frowns, but when Dante and Ely go to trial, her voice fades. And I shift my focus to Nan Caro's car as it disappears down the lane. Maxim, what is it? Fuck. Tell me. I turn to face her, and her jaw is set in grim determination. Hell. They died in custody. Yeah, so he had to tell her anyway. Like, he had good news, and he chose to give her the good news that sounded like bad news, and now he's thinking that the good news that is good news is bad news. Her gaze scans my face, and I watch as a dozen emotions cloud her eyes until they harden. Frigid, callous, unlike my girl. Good, Alessia says, with such passion that I'm a little shocked. I hope they rot in hell. Whoa. But yeah, I hope so too. It's okay for him to have all of these horrible, hard feelings, but not his girl. She looks callous and frigid and hard when she hears that the men who trafficked her and who sex trafficked her friend, she finds out they're dead, and she looks callous and hard and frigid, and he's like thrown by this. Like, I'm sorry, you should want her to look that way. And that's, those emotions are, you know, oh no, that's not like my girl. But then she starts crying, and he's like, don't cry for them. Well, I'm sorry, Maxim, could you please let us know what the appropriate emotion that your wife is allowed to feel is at this moment? But she says she's crying because she's relieved, because she's free. Like, all the victims are free because these guys can't come back and get them. And then she says, now we just need you to talk to your mother. Yep, we just need you to talk to your mother, Maxim. This is a little post-it note in here to remind the readers that... Oh. Hello? And I'm currently recording, and I just talked on my video about how you have a problem with me saying Italian. So yeah, she's just telling us straight out, like, now the thing that we need to wrap up, the loose end that needs to be wrapped up now, is talking to your mother. I scoff and shake my head. What? That's a change of subject. And it's my mother who needs to talk to me. I have texted her. Yeah, you texted her, but, like, you are snotty and mean as fuck constantly. So I hope she doesn't call you back. And Alessia is like, look, you know, she wasn't ready to tell you all of this stuff, so she just basically told you the highlights, and you were really shocked. So, you know, you're not ready to listen. And he's like, I might never be ready to listen. So yeah, definitely, let's push them to get into a room together again. There's a section break and an interesting line here. We're stretched out on our bed when we should be sleeping. I mean, that's how I sleep on my bed. That's where I do the sleeping, is on the bed. I don't know. Clue me in the comments. Are things different in England? So Alessia's like, I love it here. Can we come back soon? And he's like, well, once your auditions are over, but you can't just come back here and stay. You're trying to go to college. He says that they should go to sleep because he has to do the reading tomorrow, and he says that he feels hypocritical about the fact that he's like the lord of the place, like, and he's not religious, but he's still going to do this reading. But he knows he has to be a part of the community, and meeting all these farmers that night that we didn't see. Thank God we didn't have to go to the farmer meeting. But he met them all, and it made him realize, like, oh yeah, I have to be a part of this. I have to keep this place. He says, now I want to be a part of it more than ever. It's important to keep this place together and thriving for us and everyone who lives in it and around Trevithick. We are its beating heart. Which is nice, but I think this is going to come up. It's going to end up being like a thing of like, I don't want to go to piano school. I want to stay on the farm and make babies. And then we get to, her hand is skimming down his, she kisses him properly, because remember, properly, it's always she kisses him properly, and then her hand is skimming down his body, waking everything. And then the last line is, again? Oh boy! No, it really reads like, oh boy! Because it's got an exclamation point. So like, comment, subscribe, throw some money in the Ko-Fi if you enjoy my sheep math. Also, don't forget about the Patreon. The $1 tier is, right now it's the Jealous Haters Book Club that it is going to become the Jealous Patrons AV Club. Starting this month. We will have a 5-part series on the book Icebreaker, the TikTok sensation Icebreaker. So that is coming. I did have to re-record the video. I have to re-record it because it's not as... I didn't like the way my first video came out, and it was like an hour and a half long. So anyway, if you are interested in that, go ahead and check out the Patreon. Subscribe at the $1 tier, and you will get access to the Jealous Patrons AV Club videos. And then in the meantime, oh boy, I'll catch you on the flip side.